Rain has of cleaning a city, and revealing everything that can't be washed away. Tonight, the streets glisten like glass. Inside the small café at the corner of 7th and Willow, a single light hums against the darkness. It's nearly midnight. The kind of hour where time feels heavier. The kind of night where destinies cross without permission. She's there. As always, Elena, wiping tables that no one notices. The kind of girl who moves quietly through life, like music that never asks to be heard. Every morning she wakes before the sun, boils coffee for men who never look her in the eyes. Every night she walks home through alleys that smell of rain and rust. Life is small, but it's hers, until the night he walks in, the door creaks. Metallic hiss. Wind rushes in. Cold air follows him. A man in a dark suit, shoulders wet with rain. He moves like someone who learned long ago that silence is safer than words. The world doesn't know his name, but when he enters a room, it remembers him. Elena, softly, good evening. Table for one. He nods once. No smile. No expression. His hands, large, scarred, rest on the table when she brings his coffee. He doesn't look up. Black. No sugar. The kind of order that tells you everything about a man. No sweetness, no disguise. She studies him for a moment too long. Something about him unsettles her. Not in fear, but in mystery. Outside, the rain speaks in rhythms. Inside, time slows when he finishes his coffee. He leaves cash on the table, and something else, wallet, black leather. Smooth. Heavy, placed with care, as if it's watching her. That Elena whispers, "Sir, you forgot your..." She turns. He's gone. The street outside is empty. The city keeps moving, but her heartbeat stops for one suspended breath. She picks it up, opens it. Inside, cash, cards, and a gold coin with a mark she doesn't recognize. It gleams beneath the dim cafe light, like temptation. Dressed as Mercy, her fingers tremble. That single coin could pay for her mother's medicine. It could change everything. No 1SW, no cameras, no witnesses, just her. And a choice. Elena, to herself, what would Mama say? Her mother's words echo like a prayer. Do the right thing even when no one's watching. But honesty doesn't pay bills. Kindness doesn't buy medicine. And good people still starve in this city. She closes the wallet and holds it to her chest. The cafe empties. The clock ticks louder than it ever has. And somewhere between midnight and conscience, she decides to wait. She steps outside, rain hitting her like tiny knives. She waits beneath the flickering neon sign. Minutes become hours. Umbrellas pass, cars splash water onto her shoes. But she waits, because sometimes, doing what's right means standing alone in the storm. Headlights approach. Black car stops. The man steps out, rain gliding down his coat like glass. The man, quiet, low. Why are you still here? Elena, you forgot this. She offers the wallet with both hands. He studies her. The man, you opened it. Elena, I had to know who it belonged to. That I didn't take anything. He steps closer. The air feels charged, not with danger but curiosity. The man, you waited here all this time. Elena, nodding yes. He opens the wallet. Everything is untouched. The man, this coin. Every person who found that wallet before you kept it. She frowns. Elena, I don't understand. The man, it was a test to see if honesty still exists in a city that sold its soul. He places the coin in her hand. The man, softly, keep it. You've earned it. What's your name? Elena. Elena. The man, remember this, Elena. The world may not reward honesty immediately, but people like me notice when it appears. He turns and walks back to his car. The tail lights vanish into the rain. She stands there, soaked, shivering, alive. Somehow the night feels heavier, yet lighter all at once. She doesn't know his name, but she'll never forget his eyes. She says nothing. But she knows the world had noticed, and somewhere across the city, a man sits in silence, staring at a missing coin in his wallet, for the first time in years. He feels something like peace. Low cello hums beneath the rain. It's been 6 days since the night that changed everything. The rain stopped, but Elena still feels it. Inside her bones, in the quiet spaces between her breaths. The coin rests beside her mother's medicine on the nightstand. Some nights, it glows faintly under the streetlight, not because it's gold, but because it means something unspoiled survived in her. The cafe hums again. Old lights, burnt bread, cheap coffee. Elena wipes tables as sunlight filters through the cracks of the windowpane. Life tried to go back to normal. But normal never truly returns once destiny has taken notice. A delivery man arrives, arms full of boxes. Delivery man. Morning, miss. New espresso machine, new cups, new everything. Paid in advance. Anonymous ordered. Elena, confused. Anonymous. He shrugs and leave. She doesn't ask questions, but her hands tremble when she runs them over the new machine. It feels like gratitude, written in silence. Far across town, the man from the rain walks through marble hallways, not of justice, but of power. No one calls him by name in public, and the undercurrent of the city. He's known only as Damien Vale. The quiet kind of Mafia boss, the kind who doesn't need to raise his voice to make men obey. He doesn't deal in chaos, he deals in order, the kind built from fear and debt. But lately, fear no longer satisfies him. Damien sits in his office, looking at the empty slot in his wallet where the gold coin once was. Damien, quietly she waited in the rain. His right-hand man, Marco, looks up. Marco, boss. Damien, nothing. Just remembering that honesty still breathes somewhere in this city. That night left a stain on his conscience, not of guilt but of longing, for something real, something unbought. Something he once was. Rain threatens again. Elena wipes tables, humming a tune her mother used to sing. The door chimes. She looks up. It's him. For a heartbeat, she forgets how to breathe. Elena, softly, you came back to Damien. I owed you a coffee. He sits at the same table. She brings his cup, black, no sugar. He doesn't smile. But his eyes, they've changed. They're not empty anymore, just tired of pretending. They sit in silence, rain whispering against the glass. Damien, you didn't ask who I am. Elena, would it matter? He studies her, honesty again, sharp and simple. Damien, it might. Elena. Then maybe it's better I don't know. A faint, reluctant smile tugs at his lips, the kind that hasn't appeared in years. Some conversations don't need words. Sometimes, silence builds the bridge words could never cross. Over the next days, Damien returns. Always late, always alone. He reads the newspaper, drinks in silence, leaves generous tips he doesn't sign. Elena starts recognizing his rhythm. How he breathes slower when it rains, how he looks at the door before leaving as if waiting for something unnamed. Elena's mother calls from home, weak, coughing. Mother, on phone. You sound happy, my child. Elena. Maybe I am, Mama. Just tired. Mother. Tired from doing the right thing. That's a good kind of tired. She smiles through tears. That night, as she locks the cafe door, she doesn't know Damien is parked across the street, watching quietly, not out of control, but out of something softer, scarier. Concern. Camera follows Damien in his car, rain streaking down the windshield. Marco, from driver's seat. Boss, why her? Damien, after a long silence because she waited. When everyone else walks away, she waited. He tells himself it's gratitude. But gratitude doesn't make the heart ache when she smiles. It doesn't make him question everything he's built. Days pass. Elena begins noticing small things. A black car parked near her street, men in suits pretending to be ordinary customers. Not threatening but protective. She knows it's him. She doesn't feel afraid, just seen. The power flickers. She's closing alone. Lightning flashes. A shadow moves outside. She freezes. The door opens. Damien steps in, drenched. Elena, startled. You scared me. Damien. You shouldn't be here alone at this hour. Elena. Someone has to close. He looks around. Empty cafe, faint hum of thunder. Damien, gently, let me drive you home. Elena. That wouldn't look right, Damien. You care too much about what looks right. Elena, smiling faintly. Someone has to. A beat of silence. Then she locks the door, stepping out into the rain beside him. Two strangers point, one act of honesty between them. And something unnamed begins to grow. Quietly, dangerously, beautifully. He opens the car door for her. She hesitates, then sits. The rain drums softly on the roof. Their eyes meet. A moment too long, too sincere. Damien, you remind me of someone I used to be. Elena. What happened to him? He looks out the window. Damien. He learned that good men don't last long in my world. Elena. Maybe that's why the world needs good men again. He glances at her. Something flickers in his expression, fragile and human. The rain falls harder, blurring the city outside. Inside the car, time slows. Like the world holding its breath for two people it shouldn't let meet. He drops her off at her building. She steps out, clutching the gold coin in her pocket. Before she shuts the door. Elena, thank you for the ride, he nods. Damien, thank you for waiting. She smiles, the kind of smile that will haunt him later. Every man who lives in darkness remembers the moment he first saw light. He may turn away, he may deny it, but light, once seen, never leaves him. And for Damien Vale, that light had a name, Elena. Every story of love begins with a moment. For Damien and Elena, it began in the back seat of a black car, with silence heavy enough to drown in. Elena sits quietly, eyes down, clutching her bag. Rain dots the window, blurring the city lights into colors that bleed together. Damien drives, his hand steady on the wheel, his face unreadable. Every streetlight flashes across his scarred knuckles, reminders of what he's done to survive. Elena, softly, you knew those men. Didn't you? He exhales. Doesn't answer. Elena, they were afraid of you. Who are you really? He finally glances at her. His tone calm but cold. Damien, someone you shouldn't trust. Silence. Elena, then why did you save me? He looks ahead again, voice low. Damien, because good people are a dying breed in this city. And I'm tired of watching the world bury them. They stop in front of her apartment building. She opens the door, then pauses. Elena, thank you for tonight, Damien. Quietly lock your doors, Elena. And don't wait for gratitude from devils. She hesitates, something in his tone sounds like sorrow. She nods, steps out, and watches the car disappear into the rain. That night she dreamt of him, not as the man in the shadows, but as the man who stood between her and danger, and somewhere across the city. He dreamt of her too. Only his dreams always ended in blood. Damien sits alone in his office, whiskey glass half full. He watches the rain hit the window and whispers, Damien, to himself, she doesn't belong in my world, and yet, he closes his eyes. Flashback, her trembling hands offering his wallet. Her voice saying, I didn't take anything. He'd faced death without blinking, but the thought of her getting hurt, that terrified him. Morning. Elena hums as she arranges flowers by the counter. She turns, and freezes. Damien is standing there. Black coat. Calm expression. Same dark eyes. Elena, surprised you. You came back. Damien, gently, I said I owed you, consider this a repayment. He slides a business card across the counter. Elegant, plain, embossed with initials D. Damien, if anyone bothers you again, call this number. She studies the card, then him. Elena, you look like someone people already call when they're in trouble. A small, rare smile flickers across his lips. Damien, maybe I'm trying to change that. Time passes. Days turn to weeks. Damien begins stopping by often. Sometimes just for coffee, sometimes just to see her smile. They talk about small things. The weather. Her mother. But in every silence between them, something dangerous grows. He never touched her, never crossed the line. But the way his eyes softened when she laughed, that was already betrayal enough, to everything he'd ever been. One evening she closes the café early. He's there, helping her fix a broken light. Elena, teasing, didn't think Mafia bosses did handyman work. He pauses. She realizes what she said. Too honest, too direct. Elena, quickly, I mean, sorry I didn't. He chuckles, the sound low and warm, the first real laugh she's ever heard from him. Damien, it's fine. You're smarter than most people I deal with. Elena smiles, and yet you keep coming back. He looks at her. Long, quiet, intense. Damien, softly, maybe because you make me forget what I am. The tension is fragile, alive. She steps back slightly, afraid of what she's feeling. And what she's awakening in him. The devil had found warmth in an angel's light, and the angel, for the first time, wondered if even a devil could be redeemed. He takes a slow breath, steps closer, but stops just before touching her. Damien, gently, you should stay away from me, Elena. I bring storms wherever I go. Elena whispers, then maybe I was meant to be the rain. He looks at her, something breaking quietly inside him. He turns away before he can answer. Cut to black. Rain begins again, heavy, endless. Love had entered a world that didn't deserve it, and soon, both heaven and hell would come for its price. The street is quiet except for the hum of neon lights. Inside, Elena wipes the counter. Same rhythm, same peace. But tonight her mind drifts. Sometimes love doesn't ask for permission. It just arrives, quietly like rain, and dares you to stay dry. Damien sits behind his desk, staring at a ledger that doesn't make sense anymore. Stacks of cash. Deals. None of it feels alive. He closes the book. Lights a cigarette but doesn't smoke it. The ember flickers. Like his fading control, he'd built a kingdom on fear. Now he found himself ruled by something gentler, and infinitely more dangerous. Elena hangs her apron. The last customer leaves. She turns to find Damien standing in the doorway. His coat dripping rain. You said you wouldn't come tonight. Damien, quietly. I tried not to. He steps closer, his voice low but fragile. Damien, every time I stay away, the world feels heavier. Elena, soft smile. And every time you come it feels lighter. A pause. The kind that hurts to break. Damien, Elena. If you knew the things I've done you'd run. If you meant to harm me you would have done it long ago. She reaches out, brushes rain from his sleeve. It's innocent, but to him it feels like forgiveness. For a man who had taken lives, one gentle touch was enough to bring him to his knees. There they sit parked under a bridge. Rain beats against the windshield like a restless heartbeat. You never told me what you really do. Damien. After a pause. I fix problems. Sometimes the kind that can't be fixed with kindness. You mean? You hurt people. He doesn't answer. Just turns away. Elena, quietly. And yet you saved me. Why? He looks at her, eyes raw and tired. Damien, because you reminded me that I could. Silence. Rain fills the space between them. Days pass and Elena visits her mother at the small clinic, holding her hand. Damien watches from a distance in his car, unseen. He leaves an envelope at the clinic's door. Medicine bills paid in full. Elena finds it, confused, then sees a small gold coin inside, like the one he once gave her. Love doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it hides in acts of quiet mercy. Damien's right-hand man, Enzo, enters. Nervous. There's talk in the streets. They say you're protecting someone. A girl. Damien doesn't respond. Enzo firmly. If your enemies find her they won't come for her. They'll come for you. Damien looks up. Calm, dangerous calm. Damien, let them come. Enzo's not one of us. She doesn't understand what you've done to survive. Damien, softly. That's exactly why she matters. 1 week later. Elena is alone, closing up. The lights flicker. Outside. Shadows move. She senses it, turns to the door, but before she can lock it, a hand grabs her arm. A voice. You're a hard girl to find. Black screen. Sound of struggle. Shattering glass. The rain grows louder. Damien is signing papers when Enzo bursts in, pale, shaken. It's her. They took her. The pen drops. Silence. The kind that freezes time. And in that silence, the man who once ruled with fear remembered what it meant to feel. He stands, calm, deadly calm. Damien, coldly. Get the car. Car tires splash through puddles. The city lights blur. Damien's convoy moves like black ghosts through the storm. He once believed redemption was earned through silence. Tonight, he learned it sometimes demands noise. Elena sits tied to a chair. Her face is calm, terrified, but still defiant. Thug one. You mean a lot to the wrong man, sweetheart. Let's see what he's willing to trade for you. She doesn't answer. Just looks down, whispering a prayer. Headlights slice through the rain. Damien steps out, coat heavy with water. No guns raised. No shouting. Just the presence of a man whose silence commands everything. Damien, quietly. Let her go. Thug one. You think you can tell us what to? He doesn't finish. One look from Damien. Enough to stop a heartbeat. Damien, you don't understand. The only thing more dangerous than me is what you make me become if she gets hurt. The man hesitates. Something in Damien's tone feels biblical. He unties her. She runs to Damien. He doesn't hold her, just places his coat over her shoulders. Damien, To the men you walk away tonight, and you live, you stay, and the rain will wash away more than footprints, they leave shaken. The storm is dying. Damien and Elena stand under a flickering streetlight. You could have been killed. Damien. Quietly, if I had lost you, I already would have been. He looks away, ashamed. Damien, this is my fault. They came because of me. Elena, softly. Then maybe it's time to stop being who they think you are. He turns to her, the rain now gentle, forgiving. Damien, you think I can change? Elena smiles faintly. I think you already have. They stand in silence. Her hand reaches for his, hesitant, trembling. He lets it happen. The blood between them wasn't shared by family, but by fate, and the cost of choosing good in a world built on wrong. Sometimes peace doesn't come with silence. It comes with someone who teaches your heart how to rest again. The city had stopped raining 3 days ago, but the streets still smelled like it. Like something washed, something forgiven, something that wanted to start over. And maybe that's what Elena was learning to do, start over. Morning arrives gently now. Not with thunder, not with the hum of restless traffic, but with a slow kind of light that creeps across the cafe floor. The world seems softer, almost shy after so many nights of rain. Elena wipes the counter the same way she always has, except this time she's humming. Not loudly. Just a quiet tune her mother used to sing while hanging laundry on the line. The bell above the cafe door rings. She doesn't look up right away. The sound is ordinary, part of her routine. But when she finally glances toward it, something inside her stirs. A man in a dark suit stands there again. Not dripping with rain this time, but the same eyes, calm and searching. Damien looks human today. No shadows trailing him, no men behind him. Just him, his hands in his pockets, the faintest trace of a smile tugging at the edge of his mouth. Elena's heart stumbles a little. She forces herself to stay still, to pretend it's nothing. He nods once. Coffee, he says simply. She nods back, pretending to wipe the counter again even though it's already clean. The machine hisses. The smell of roasted beans fills the air. When she places the cup before him, their hands almost touch. For a moment, they both forget what distance means. Damien watches her quietly. The last time he'd seen her, she'd been standing in the rain, holding his wallet like it contained something sacred. He hadn't been able to shake that image. A girl too honest for a city built on lies. He hadn't meant to come back, not really. But something about that night refused to fade. Maybe it was her eyes, maybe it was the way her voice didn't tremble even when the rain did. Now, sitting across from her again, he feels something he hasn't in years. Peace. He doesn't speak much. He just sits, drinks his coffee black, and watches her move around the cafe, collecting plates, serving strangers, smiling at little things that shouldn't matter but somehow do. When he finishes, he leaves cash on the counter again. Too much as always. But before she can protest, he's already walking out the door. This time, though, he glances back. Just once and smiles. That night, Elena can't sleep. She lies in bed, staring at the ceiling, the sound of rain ghosts whispering outside even though the sky is clear. She thinks about him. Not because she wants to, but because some people leave behind echoes you can't silence. Her mother's medicine sits on the table beside her bed. Bottles that should have been too expensive, yet somehow were paid for. She doesn't ask who did it. Deep down she already knows. She closes her eyes and whispers a prayer. Not for herself, but for the stranger who might not be a stranger anymore. The next morning he returns, and the one after that. Always quiet. Always calm. Sometimes he sits by the window. Sometimes at the counter. Sometimes he just stands by the door for a while before leaving without a word. The city moves around them, but inside that small cafe, time slows down. She starts leaving the coffee ready before he arrives, pretending it's coincidence. He starts tipping less, not because he's stingy, but because he knows she doesn't like feeling owed. Little by little, the silence between them turns familiar. Comfortable. One afternoon, the sunlight hits differently. Warm and slow, filling the cafe with gold. Elena is laughing at something one of the students said when she sees him outside. Not walking. Waiting, she steps out, wiping her hands on her apron. You're early today. Damien looks at her for a moment, then gestures to the car parked at the curb. Come with me. Her heart jumps. Where? He hesitates. Somewhere quiet. She should say no. She knows it. But there's something about his tone. Not a command, not a demand, just a request. Something human, so she nods. The drive is silent. The city fades behind them. Tall buildings giving way to quiet streets and then to the open edge of the sea. The air smells like salt and sun. Seagulls trace the sky, crying softly as waves kiss the shore. Damien stops the car, steps out, and walks to the edge of the pier. For a moment, Elena just watches him. The way the wind catches his coat, the way he stands like someone who's fought too many wars inside himself. He turns, eyes softer than she's ever seen them. I used to come here, he says, when I needed to remember what peace looks like. She walks to stand beside him. And what does it look like? He glances at her. Like this. Her breath catches. The simplicity of it disarms her. They stand in silence, the sea moving below, the world slowing to a heartbeat. For the first time, she sees not the man who scared the café into silence, but the man who once forgot how to feel. Later, as they drive back, she rests her head lightly against the window. The reflection of his face in the glass looks almost gentle when he drops her off. She thanks him quietly. He nods once, but before he leaves he says, "You remind me of something I thought I lost." He frowns. "What's that?" Pauses. "Goodness." Then he's gone again, swallowed by the city lights. That night, Elena cries without knowing why. Not sadness, not fear. Just something too full to name. Somewhere across the city, Damien sits in his office. Empty glasses, dim lights, papers scattered like forgotten thoughts. He holds the gold coin in his hand. The same coin she returned untouched. He turns it over between his fingers, then sets it down and leans back, closing his eyes. For the first time in years he sleeps. Days become weeks. The café becomes his sanctuary. A place where power means nothing and silence heals everything. He learns to smile again. Not the polite kind, but the kind that happens without permission. She learns to stop waiting for something to go wrong, and yet, sometimes when he looks out the window there's a flicker of something behind his eyes, a shadow that hasn't forgotten who he used to be. But for now it stays quiet. For now, peace holds. The world begins to move slower around them, not because time has changed, but because they've started to see it differently, through softer eyes, through moments that don't ask for more than presence. Elena finds herself waking with purpose now. Before the sun even touches the horizon, she's already at the café, opening the shutters, letting the early light spill across the floor. Sometimes he's there, waiting, sometimes he isn't. But she always makes 2 cups of coffee anyway. There's comfort in the waiting, even when the door never opens. One morning he surprises her, no suit. No shadow of the man who commands rooms without speaking. Just a plain white shirt, sleeves rolled, eyes that seem younger somehow. He walks behind the counter, something he's never done, and picks up a tray. "I can help," he says. Elena blinks. "You serve coffee?" He shrugs, that faint smile again. "I've handled more dangerous things." She laughs, really laughs this time. "You'll scare the customers." "Maybe they need that," he says, deadpan, and she laughs harder. The sound fills the café like sunlight, and for a moment, it feels like life has forgotten to be cruel. As days pass, they begin to share fragments of themselves. Not confessions, just small truths. She tells him about her mother. The way she used to dance barefoot in the kitchen before the sickness took her energy. He listens, truly listens. As if her words are the only honest thing left in the world. He never talks much about himself. But sometimes when the light hits just right, she catches glimpses. Faint scars near his knuckles, a tension in his shoulders when sirens echo in the distance, a quiet grief in the way he watches children pass by, and even without words, she understands. His peace is borrowed, his calm, a fragile disguise. One evening, as she's closing up, he's still sitting by the window. Rain has begun again, gentle and rhythmic, painting soft rivers down the glass. She stands beside him. "You don't have to stay till closing, you know." He doesn't look up. "And go where?" She hesitates. "Home." He smiles, faint and tired. "This feels more like home than anywhere I've been in years." The words settle between them like warmth. Outside, the city hums with life and danger. But in here, everything feels stilled. He reaches into his coat, pulls out a small paper bag, and slides it across the table. She frowns. "What's this?" "Bread," he says. "From the bakery 2 streets down. You told me your mother liked it." Her eyes soften. "You remembered." "I remember everything that feels real." She doesn't answer. Instead, she places her hand on the table. Not close enough to touch, just near. A silent thank you. That night when she brings the bread home, her mother smiles weakly from her bed. "Who brought this?" Elena hesitates. "A friend." Her mother's eyes, still sharp, still knowing, study her for a moment. "A friend who makes you smile like that is more than a friend." Elena blushes, busying herself with plates. "He's just someone kind." Her mother chuckles softly. "Be careful, my dear. Kindness from broken people is the most dangerous kind." Elena freezes. "What do you mean?" Her mother sighs. "Because they give it like it's the last good thing they have." Later that week, Damien takes her to a quiet restaurant at the edge of town. Not one of his usual haunts, but a small, family-run place with peeling wallpaper and the smell of fresh basil in the air. They sit in the corner, away from the few other diners. She laughs when she sees him staring at the menu like it's written in code. "You don't eat out much, do you?" "Not without a reason." "And today?" He looks up, meeting her gaze. "You're the reason." Her heart falters. For a long second, she doesn't know what to say. He looks away first, as if embarrassed by his own sincerity. "I don't remember the last time I felt normal," he admits quietly. "When I'm with you, I almost forget who I am." She studies him, the line of his jaw, the quiet ache behind his words. Maybe that's not such a bad thing. He exhales, half a laugh, half a sigh. Maybe not. After dinner, they walk by the waterfront. The moonlight spills silver across the pavement, and the air smells like sea and night. She asks, "Do you ever regret things?" He stops walking. "Every day." "Then why don't you change them?" He looks at her, really looks, eyes dark, raw, honest. "Because some things don't forgive, no matter how much you want them to." She doesn't press. She just walks closer, letting their shoulders almost brush. And though neither of them says it, they both feel it. The unspoken truth that whatever is growing between them isn't simple. It's fragile, dangerous, but real. In the following days, the café changes. There's laughter where silence used to be, flowers appear on the tables. The cracked windows are replaced. Damien doesn't say he's behind it, but she knows when she thanks him he only says, "I like this place better when you smile." And she does. A real smile, the kind that starts in the eyes. Still at night, he sometimes wakes to the sound of rain. Not real rain, but memories of it. The sound of gunfire, the smell of smoke, the flash of betrayal. He sits up, breathing heavy, hands trembling. On the bedside table lies the gold coin. He stares at it until his heartbeat steadies. The world outside doesn't know that the man rebuilding his soul in a café once tore other souls apart. But Elena doesn't see that man. She only sees the one who waits for her to finish her shift just to walk her home, umbrella in hand, saying little, smiling more, for a while. Peace is enough. But peace never lasts forever. The café bell chimed like a memory. That same faint metallic ring that had started everything. It was Tuesday morning. The kind that felt too still, too blue. Elena wiped down the wooden counter, sunlight spilling through the lace curtains, turning dust into tiny galaxies. Her laughter, small, unguarded, drifted through the room as an old song played low from the radio. And outside, leaning against a lamppost across the street, a man in a dark coat watched. Not for long. Just long enough. He looked like anyone, the kind of face that disappeared in a crowd. But when he turned, there was something deliberate in the slowness. A stillness too heavy for a normal day. Inside, Damien sat in his usual corner, his head bowed over an untouched cup of espresso. The cup trembled faintly in his hand, though his expression never broke. The scars on his knuckles caught the light, little reminders of who he used to be. Elena approached, smiling softly. "Elena, you're quiet today." Damien, half smiling. "Maybe peace makes me clumsy with words." Her eyes searched his face. There was something new there, not violence, not pain, just distance. Like his mind was standing in another room she couldn't enter. He glanced at the window. The street beyond. Something flickered there. A reflection, maybe. Or maybe not. That night, rain came again. Not a storm this time, just a whisper against glass. Elena closed the cafe early, and Damien offered to walk her home. The city lights blurred like watercolor. The air soft and cold. They walked without words. Their footsteps echoed under the bridge, where the walls were painted with years of graffiti and lost promises. Then, a sound, a car door closing somewhere behind them. Damien's head lifted slightly. He didn't turn. Didn't need to. The instincts never really died. He slowed, subtly positioning himself between Elena and the sound. Elena. What is it? Damien, quietly. Nothing, just the city breathing. But his jaw was tight. When they reached her door, Elena hesitated, searching his eyes again. Elena. You've been looking over your shoulder lately. Damien. Soft. Habit. Elena. Or ghosts. Damien, after a pause. Sometimes they're the same thing. She wanted to ask more, but his tone closed the door, and so she smiled instead, pretending not to feel the cold fear blooming in her chest. At dawn, Damien returned to his small apartment above the mechanic's shop. He sat by the window, cigarette unlit between his fingers. The city below looked harmless. Quiet. But on the opposite building, behind a cracked window, another cigarette glowed red. Then, darkness again. Peace is a fragile thing. It doesn't ask for much. Just honesty, trust, and a little luck. But men like Damien, they rarely get all three. Morning bled into noon in slow gold streaks. The cafe was alive again. Spoons clinking, milk steaming, the hum of ordinary lives, but beneath it, a quiet thread of unease had begun to weave through Damien's days. It wasn't the kind of fear he could name. It was smaller, the weight of eyes when no one was looking, the sound of his phone buzzing once, then dying before he could answer. The peace he had been learning to breathe started feeling borrowed. That afternoon, Elena was writing in her notebook by the window, ideas for a new cafe recipe. Her pen moved fast, her lips murmuring softly as she tasted words before writing them down. Damien watched her from behind the counter. Something about her steadiness fascinated him. How could someone be so still in a world that was always running from something? Damien, softly, almost to himself, you make quiet look easy. Elena, smiling, quiet's just what's left after all the noise burns out. Their eyes met, a silence between them, heavy but kind. Then, a car engine started outside. Damien's gaze flicked to the glass. Black sedan. Windows tinted. The same one he'd noticed near the bridge 2 nights ago. He forced his face still. His hand stayed steady, but his coffee spoon bent slightly between his fingers. That night, Elena found him on the rooftop. The sky was bruised purple, the air thick with the smell of rain about to begin. Damien was sitting at the edge, cigarette smoke curling around him like a ghost learning to dance. Elena. You don't sleep much. Damien. Some nights I forget how. Elena. Still the city breathing. Damien, quiet laugh, still breathing. But I think it's holding something in. She sat beside him, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. Elena. You don't have to tell me everything. Just don't shut me out. Damien, after a pause. If I let you in, you'll see things you can't unsee. Elena. Then let me decide what I can live with. He turned to her, really looked at her, and for a moment the streetlight caught his eyes in a way that softened him completely. Sometimes love doesn't begin with a kiss. Sometimes it starts with a look, the kind that says, I see the worst in you and I'm still here. The next morning the cafe door didn't chime. It opened silently. Like a secret point, 2 men walked in. Well dressed. Smiling too politely. One had a small scar under his eye, the kind Damien used to give. Elena greeted them warmly, unaware of the tension that coiled in Damien's chest the moment he saw them. Man 1. We heard good things about this place. Elena. Thank you. Would you like a table? Man 1, glancing at Damien. We'll sit by the window. They ordered coffee. They didn't drink it. Damien's pulse slowed, the way it always did before violence. But this time he stayed seated. His fingers traced the rim of his cup as his mind counted exits, mirrors, distances. The men left quietly. No words, no gestures. Just the smell of cologne and unfinished history. When the door finally shut behind them, Damien's jaw unclenched. Elena. Friends of yours? Damien, softly, ghosts don't shake hands. She frowned, sensing the wall between them growing again. Elena. Damien, if you're in trouble. Damien. No. Trouble's just late to the party. That night he didn't come back. Elena stayed awake, watching rain slide down the window. Every drop felt like a second too long. When peace starts cracking, it doesn't shatter at once. It breaks slowly, like glass under heat, beautiful right until the moment it gives in. The next 3 days passed like smoke through fingers. There, but impossible to hold. Elena worked the café alone. Her smile stayed, but softer now, as though it cost her something to keep it. Every time the bell above the door rang, she looked up too fast, hoping. Every time it wasn't him, she whispered something under her breath that no one could hear. Damien had vanished, no note, no message. Just absence, thick, unexplainable, and heavy enough to bend the air. At the edge of the city, in an abandoned warehouse that smelled of oil and rot, Damien stood beneath the flicker of a broken light. The 2 men from the café sat before him, tied to chairs, blood in their smiles. He hadn't killed them. Not yet. He wasn't that man anymore. Damien. You shouldn't have come near her. Man 1. Orders, boss. Grinning. Old friends, remember? Damien coldly. I don't have friends. I have graves. The man's laughter faltered. Damien turned away, rubbing the bridge of his nose like the sound of violence gave him a headache now. He'd built something fragile with Elena, something real. And he could feel it cracking already. That he left them alive. Not out of mercy, out of exhaustion. Voiceover. Redemption isn't about becoming good. It's about getting tired of being bad. That night, Damien returned. It was past midnight when he climbed the stairs to her apartment. The lights were still on. He hesitated at the door before knocking once. A soft, apologetic sound. Elena opened immediately. Her eyes were red from waiting. Elena, quiet. Where were you? Damien. Chasing a shadow. Elena. And did you catch it? Damien. No. But it knows I'm done running. She stepped aside, letting him in without another word. The room smelled like chamomile and rain. She poured him tea instead of questions. He sat, shoulders heavy, eyes hollow but gentler somehow. Elena. You scare me sometimes. Damien. Good men don't. And I'm not sure I'll ever be one. Elena. Then be something better, be honest. He looked up. Their eyes met, something unspoken passed between them. Fragile, trembling, real. In the weeks that followed, Damien stayed. He fixed shelves, painted walls, watched her hum while she worked. And for a while, life looked almost ordinary. But the past doesn't vanish. It waits. And one morning when Damien came downstairs to open the café, the window was cracked. A single bullet hole in the corner of the glass, no one inside, no blood. Just a message written on the counter in red ink. You can't erase who you were, boss. Damien stared at it, breath shallow. Then he did something Elena would remember for the rest of her life. He smiled, not with warmth, but with surrender. Voiceover. The past isn't a prison. It's a mirror. And sooner or later, every man has to decide which reflection he'll live with. That evening he closed early. He didn't tell Elena about the message. He just held her longer when she hugged him goodnight outside under the flickering streetlight. A black sedan waited again, engine purring like a promise, and from behind the glass upstairs, Elena watched it, unaware of what it meant, only knowing that peace was slipping through their fingers once more. Morning bled into noon in slow gold streaks. The café was alive again. Spoons clinking, milk steaming, the hum of ordinary lives, but beneath it, a quiet thread of unease had begun to weave through Damien's days. It wasn't the kind of fear he could name. It was smaller, the weight of eyes when no one was looking, the sound of his phone buzzing once, then dying before he could answer. The peace he had been learning to breathe started feeling borrowed. That afternoon, Elena was writing in her notebook by the window, ideas for a new café recipe. Her pen moved fast, her lips murmuring softly as she tasted words before writing them down. Damien watched her from behind the counter. Something about her steadiness fascinated him. How could someone be so still in a world that was always running from something? Damien, softly, almost to himself, "You make quiet look easy." Elena, smiling, "Quiet's just what's left after all the noise burns out." Their eyes met, a silence between them, heavy but kind. Then, a car engine started outside. Damien's gaze flicked to the glass. Black sedan. Windows tinted. The same one he'd noticed near the bridge 2 nights ago. He forced his face still. His hand stayed steady, but his coffee spoon bent slightly between his fingers. That night, Elena found him on the rooftop. The sky was bruised purple, the air thick with the smell of rain about to begin. Damien was sitting at the edge, cigarette smoke curling around him like a ghost learning to dance. Elena, "You don't sleep much." Damien, "Some nights I forget how." Elena, "Still the city breathing." Damien, quiet laugh, "Still breathing. But I think it's holding something in." She sat beside him, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. Elena, "You don't have to tell me everything. Just don't shut me out." Damien, after a pause, "If I let you in, you'll see things you can't unsee." Elena, "Then let me decide what I can live with." He turned to her, really looked at her, and for a moment the streetlight caught his eyes in a way that softened him completely. Sometimes love doesn't begin with a kiss. Sometimes it starts with a look, the kind that says, "I see the worst in you and I'm still here." The next morning the cafe door didn't chime. It opened silently, like a secret point. 2 men walked in. Well dressed, smiling too politely. One had a small scar under his eye, the kind Damien used to give. Elena greeted them warmly, unaware of the tension that coiled in Damien's chest the moment he saw them. Man 1, "We heard good things about this place." Elena, "Thank you. Would you like a table?" Man 1, glancing at Damien, "We'll sit by the window." They ordered coffee. They didn't drink it. Damien's pulse slowed, the way it always did before violence. But this time he stayed seated. His fingers traced the rim of his cup as his mind counted exits, mirrors, distances. The men left quietly. No words, no gestures. Just the smell of cologne and unfinished history. When the door finally shut behind them, Damien's jaw unclenched. Elena, "Friends of yours?" Damien, softly, "Ghosts don't shake hands." She frowned, sensing the wall between them growing again. Elena, "Damien, if you're in trouble." Damien, "No. Trouble's just late to the party." That night he didn't come back. Elena stayed awake, watching rain slide down the window. Every drop felt like a second too long. When peace starts cracking, it doesn't shatter at once. It breaks slowly, like glass under heat, beautiful right until the moment it gives in. The next 3 days passed like smoke through fingers, there, but impossible to hold. Elena worked the cafe alone. Her smile stayed, but softer now, as though it cost her something to keep it. Every time the bell above the door rang, she looked up too fast, hoping. Every time it wasn't him, she whispered something under her breath that no one could hear. Damien had vanished, no note, no message. Just absence, thick, unexplainable, and heavy enough to bend the air. At the edge of the city, in an abandoned warehouse that smelled of oil and rot, Damien stood beneath the flicker of a broken light. The 2 men from the cafe sat before him, tied to chairs, blood in their smiles. He hadn't killed them. Not yet. He wasn't that man anymore. Damien, "You shouldn't have come near her." Man 1, "Orders, boss." Grinning, "Old friends, remember?" Damien, coldly, "I don't have friends. I have graves." The man's laughter faltered. Damien turned away, rubbing the bridge of his nose like the sound of violence gave him a headache now. He'd built something fragile with Elena, something real. And he could feel it cracking already. He left them alive. Not out of mercy, out of exhaustion. Voiceover. Redemption isn't about becoming good. It's about getting tired of being bad. That night, Damien returned. It was past midnight when he climbed the stairs to her apartment. The lights were still on. He hesitated at the door before knocking once. A soft, apologetic sound. Elena opened immediately. Her eyes were red from waiting. Elena, quiet, "Where were you?" Damien, "Chasing a shadow." Elena, "And did you catch it?" Damien, No. But it knows I'm done running. She stepped aside, letting him in without another word. The room smelled like chamomile and rain. She poured him tea instead of questions. He sat, shoulders heavy, eyes hollow but gentler somehow. Elena. You scare me sometimes. Damien. Good men don't. And I'm not sure I'll ever be one. Elena. Then be something better, be honest. He looked up. Their eyes met, something unspoken passed between them. Fragile, trembling, real. In the weeks that followed, Damien stayed. He fixed shelves, painted walls, watched her hum while she worked. And for a while, life looked almost ordinary. But the past doesn't vanish. It waits. And one morning when Damien came downstairs to open the café, the window was cracked. A single bullet hole in the corner of the glass, no one inside, no blood. Just a message written on the counter in red ink. You can't erase who you were, boss. Damien stared at it, breath shallow. Then he did something Elena would remember for the rest of her life. He smiled. Not with warmth, but with surrender. The past isn't a prison. It's a mirror. And sooner or later, every man has to decide which reflection he'll live with. That evening he closed early. He didn't tell Elena about the message. He just held her longer when she hugged him goodnight outside under the flickering streetlight. A black sedan waited again, engine purring like a promise, and from behind the glass upstairs, Elena watched it, unaware of what it meant, only knowing that peace was slipping through their fingers once more. The city was alive with rain again, though quieter this time. A drizzle, soft as ash, settling over streets that smelled of wet concrete and gasoline. Elena hummed softly while arranging pastries behind the counter. The café smelled of baked bread and coffee, ordinary smells that were now luxury. Her hands moved with purpose, but her eyes kept drifting toward the window. She felt it before she saw it, a shadow in a black sedan, idling across the street. Watching. Waiting. Damien didn't speak when he arrived that morning. Not until she passed him a cup of coffee. Elena. You've been quiet all morning. Damien. Something's coming. She froze. Her fingers lingered on the cup. Elena. What do you mean? Damien, low, tense. I mean the past doesn't knock. It barges in. He stared out the window, eyes narrowing. The street beyond was empty now, but the weight of it, the anticipation, pressed into the room like smoke. Later that afternoon, the bell rang. 2 men entered. Clean suits, deliberate steps, eyes sharp enough to cut through the café's warmth. They didn't order anything. They didn't smile. Damien stood, moving like a shadow himself. Damien, quiet, controlled. Leave. The men laughed, a low, dangerous sound. Man 1. We know who you are, boss. And we know who matters to you. Elena's heart jumped. She stepped back, hands gripping the edge of the counter. Damien's jaw tightened. His calm was still there, but the edges were sharp now, ready to snap. Damien. I won't ask again. Man 2. Then you'll regret it. They left as silently as they arrived, leaving behind a heavy tension that clung to the air like smoke. That night, Damien didn't return to the apartment. Elena waited. Hours stretched like shadows across her bedroom floor. Her chest tightened with every tick of the clock. Finally, her phone buzzed. A single message. Stay inside. Don't go out. Trust me. No signature. Just a shadow of him in text. The next morning, the café felt different. The air was heavier. Customers came and went, oblivious. But every sound made Elena flinch. The scraping of a chair, the ring of the doorbell. She almost didn't notice when Damien stepped in. His suit was impeccable. His face calm, but the tension around him was palpable. He had seen what waited outside and carried it inside like armor. Elena, soft, worried. Damien. Damien. I'm fine. He sounded fine. He looked fine. But she could feel it. The quiet storm behind his eyes. Damien, after a pause. I won't let anyone hurt you. Not here. Not ever. She stepped closer. Their hands brushed, just enough to remind both of them why they fought for this fragile peace. Love isn't about safety. It's about standing together when the storm finally shows its teeth. Later, in the quiet of his apartment, Damien traced the lines of his own scars in the dim light. Each mark was a memory. A life he once ruled with fear and silence. Now, that past had caught up. Outside, the city moved on unaware. Inside, Damien planned. Every careful step, every shadow he had once commanded, now bent to protect the woman who had taught him peace. That evening, Elena finally asked the question she had held back. Elena, are you in danger? Damien, every man has a shadow he can't outrun. Elena, then we face it together. He looked at her, really looked, and for the first time in years, he allowed himself to hope. Redemption isn't given. It's fought for. And sometimes, the greatest battles are the ones we fight to protect love we don't deserve. That night, the rain came heavy and fast. Elena closed the café early. Damien walked beside her, umbrella in hand, eyes scanning every street, every reflection. A single black sedan slowed at the corner. A shadow lingered. But Damien didn't flinch. Not this time. Voiceover. Sometimes the storm finds you. And sometimes you find the storm. The only choice is whether you let it break you, or let it teach you to stand. And together they walked into the rain, hearts steady, knowing the calm they'd built was fragile and precious, and worth defending at any cost. The city had stopped moving, or at least it felt that way. Rain had returned, soft and insistent, washing the streets and cloaking every shadow in silver. Elena moved through the café like sunlight. Every step, every small gesture carried quiet strength. She didn't know the storm that waited outside, only that the world had grown heavier in the last days. Damien arrived before the café opened. He didn't speak at first. He only leaned against the doorway, shoulders tense, eyes dark with a weight she couldn't name. Elena, you've been quiet. Damien, slowly today. I have to face them. She froze. Elena. Who? Damien. The past. The men who think fear can rule everything. The life I thought I could leave behind. Her hand brushed against his. A silent anchor. Elena. Then let me go with you. He shook his head slightly. Damien. No. This is mine. But I want you to stay. Safe. Her heart tightened. She wanted to argue, wanted to insist. But something in his eyes told her he had already made a choice. The kind that wouldn't bend for anyone, not even love. The night fell quickly. Streetlights gleamed like knives against wet asphalt. He arrived at the abandoned warehouse where it all began. The same two men waiting, along with more shadows than he remembered. Man 1. Boss, thought you'd run. Thought you'd hide her. Damien. I don't hide anymore. Not from the past. Not from myself. The air thickened with danger. The shadows seemed alive. Each man carried the same confidence, the same threat Damien once embodied. But now, he carried something else. A new kind of strength. Damien, low, deliberate. This ends tonight. No one touches her. No one touches what I've learned to protect. The men laughed. The warehouse walls echoed with the sound, but Damien's hand didn't shake, his eyes didn't falter, and his heart, steady from months of learning to trust, refused to betray him. Back at the café, Elena waited. She didn't sleep, didn't move, just watched the streets from her window. Every shadow, every flicker of movement made her pulse race. Waiting is the cruelest test. It asks nothing of you but faith. Faith in the quiet strength of someone you love. And hope that it will be enough. Inside the warehouse, the first shots were fired. Not at him, but at the windows. Damien moved like water. Not running, not panicking, just flowing between the danger. Every motion precise, every decision calculated. A bullet grazed his shoulder. Pain flared, but he didn't falter. One by one. He disarmed them. Not out of cruelty. Not out of revenge. He spared every man who didn't truly wish harm on Elena. Because he had learned that mercy was not weakness, redemption was not blood. When the final shadow fell, Damien stood alone, bruised and bleeding, but alive. The next morning he returned to Elena. She didn't ask questions. She only opened the door and let him in. He leaned against the frame, shoulders heavy, face streaked with blood and rain. Elena. You're back. Damien, softly. I'm home. And for the first time, she saw not the man who commanded fear, but the man who had chosen love, honesty, and peace over everything he had built before. The café smelled of coffee and rain. Sunlight broke through clouds, glinting on the wet streets outside. Damien and Elena sat together quietly. Hands touching, hearts steady. The choice is never easy. The path of redemption is never simple. But in the end, the strongest men are those who choose love over fear, honesty over power, and peace over shadow. And for a long moment, the city outside held its breath, because in that small café, at the corner of streets that had once known only rain and rust, two souls found something worth more than money, more than power, more than the darkest nights of their past. Thank you for following this story to the very end. If Elena and Damien's journey touched your heart, let us know in the comments. Tell us where you're watching from and what choice you would have made. Subscribe to Mafia Hearts for more cinematic stories of love, morality, and redemption. Every like, comment, and share keeps stories like this alive. Remember, even in the darkest storm, integrity still breathes somewhere in the noise.